Hi guys, I'm so excited to do our first devotion in a series of encounters. I'm Connie, for those of you who do not know, and today we're going to be looking at one of my favourite stories in the Gospels. Absolutely love it, so it's such a pleasure to do this with you. There's a lot, so bear with. We're looking at a story found in John chapter 4. I'm not going to be able to read all of this. I really encourage you after this devotion to go away, read it all, reflect on it all. But I'm going to start by reading verses 1 to 10, and then we're going to go through it and think about the implications. What does it mean? What can we learn from the stories of Jesus encountering real life people? In a real way, and actually remind ourselves that Jesus is still doing that today. He's still encountering people in a real way, just as he did back then. So here we go, chapter 4 verse 1 of John. Let us begin. Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized but his disciples. So he left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria. He came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his new son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came in to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew. I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God, who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." Okay, so first things to talk about when it comes to this encounter is that this is clearly not a chance encounter. Verse 4 says, now he had to go through Samaria. Now, again, the context, the fact that Jews and Samaritans do not associate with each other, sort of gives you the hint that no, Jews would have found a way to go around Samaria, and yet the Gospels writers make it perfectly clear in verse 4, no, he had to go through Samaria. So then that asks the question, well, why? What is the reason? If it wasn't the only way to get where he was going, why did he have to go through Samaria? And we realise the incredible truth is that he had to go through Samaria in order to meet the Samaritan woman. And that is absolutely incredible, especially when we start to look into the life of this Samaritan woman, and realise the hurt and the baggage and the brokenness of this woman, and yet Jesus is going, no, I need to go through Samaria in order to meet this woman. So then we find out when we read later on, here he comes, he sits at the well, there's the Samaritan woman. Now again, Jesus is there at the well, the exact time, the exact place, in order to have this encounter with this woman. And he has this at noon, which is not a normal time to meet someone at the well. But Jesus knows all this. Noon was not a normal time to meet someone at the well because it's midday, it's the hottest part of the day. So to do a physical task like going collecting water, you would do that at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, the cool of the morning. And yet this woman, who Jesus knows was going to be there at this time, was there because she was isolated from her community. She was an outcast. She was a scandal. She did not want to go to the well at the same time with all the other women because of the amount of hurt and the amount of shame that would bring on her. So here she is at noon, getting her water, thinking that she's going to be completely alone like she is every other day. And yet this is the day her life changes, because she walks up to the well and she's not alone. There's Jesus. Not only is there Jesus, but Jesus then goes and speaks to her and says, "Can I have a drink of water?" Now this may seem really sort of a normal thing to ask, as Jesus is tired, he's gone on this journey, but he's asking a Samaritan woman for a drink, which is huge. And you see that in her response. She's going, "Mate, I'm a Samaritan woman, you're a Jewish man, this shouldn't work, what's going on?" Jesus then brings up this idea of living water, and the woman, I'm sure, is going, what is this man talking about? He explains it a wee bit more by saying, "Everyone who drinks of this water, i.e. from the well, will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up eternal life." This woman's hearing this, and what she's hearing, which is so often thing when it comes with Jesus, what we hear is that, oh, that means I don't have to come to this well again. That means I don't have to do this whole midday and the hottest part of the day and this whole thing. That means I can completely hide and completely isolate myself from the world and from the community. Yes, please, I'll have some of that water now. So this woman is like, yeah, give me it, please. And Jesus knows that. Jesus knows where she's coming from. He knows sort of the neediness of where she's coming from. And he says something here that completely changes the tone of the conversation. He turns around and he says, go call your husband and come back. Now, I just imagine the colour in this woman's face just draining as she replies, I have no husband. And Jesus, completely unfazed by what he's about to unveil, turns around and says, yeah, you're right. And when you say you have no husband, actually you've had 5, and the person you're living with right now is not even your husband. So you're right in saying you have no husband. Jesus knows this woman so well, and yet here he is having this encounter with her. And this encounter really reminds me of a name that is given by Hagar to God in the Old Testament. It's sort of Abraham's story, and she calls God El Roi, which means the God who sees me. This is a God who sees this woman exactly the way she is, the brokenness, the shame, the fact that she's had 5. No, we don't know why she's had 5 husbands. The person she's living with isn't her husband, but we do know anyone who goes through that much emotional breakdown and relational breakdown is hurt, is damaged, and is carrying a lot of baggage. And Jesus is saying, do you know what? I'm sitting here being seen with you, having an encounter with you. None of that phases me. And the woman, as we all like to do when sort of those points of shame is brought to the forefront, tries to completely and utterly take the direction of the conversation away from her and her issues and her problems. And she throws this sort of theology sort of problem at Jesus and talks about how, oh, well, what is this whole thing with the Jews thinking you can only worship God in the temple, and us Samaritans thinking you worship him on this mountain. And I just look at this as ways that we do that. When we have an encounter with Jesus, okay, one of the things we do like to do is put barriers in the way, put excuses, line up the reasons why we don't have the relationship with God that we really should have. Jesus completely and utterly just pushes all this to the side. He deals with the problem that she brings up head on, but he turns around and says to her, there's going to come a time, i.e. right now, because here I am, the Son of Man, I'm here, this is the time of the year of the Lord, where the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, and they're the kind of worshippers the Father say. God is spirit, and the worshippers must worship in spirit and truth, i.e. I am making a way that you will have no more things in the way of you having a relationship with God. I'm going to make it so that you're going to have no more excuses, no more things that you can sort of make excuses for not having a true relationship, not being able to truly worship God. And the woman goes, listen, I know the Messiah is coming. This all sort of sounds too advanced for me. And then Jesus says the most profound statement in this whole passage. And actually, not even this whole passage. Like, this is such a defining moment, not just in the life of this woman, but in history. And he just chooses this woman to have this moment with, which, when you think about it, is absolutely nuts. From the beginning of Genesis, right? From the beginning of the Bible, right to the end, God's story is pointing to this moment. The moment where Jesus comes into the earth and is the Messiah, the Saviour, the Redeemer of the world. And he chooses this woman to be one of the first people he publicly reveals this to. His response to the woman's shame, the response to the woman's trying to change the conversation, the response to the woman's all the reasons why this relationship shouldn't work. I'm Samaritan, you're a Jew. Response to all of that is this: I, the one who's speaking to you, I am he. I am the Messiah. I am the one you've been waiting for your whole life. I'm the rescuer. I'm the hope. And this encounter, this revelation changes everything for the woman. And I just love that the God of the universe chooses this woman, this brokenness, this woman of shame, this woman of scandal, the woman that everyone in her community wrote off, okay? And everyone in her Samaritan community wrote off, never mind the Jews, because the Jews have written off Samaritans all completely. And yet these are the people that God reveals this to. And the encounter of Jesus is so impactful to this woman's life, right? When we read the end of the story, this woman drops everything she's got, runs back into the town that she's lived a majority of her life in hiding from, shouting from the top of her lungs, come see a man who's told me everything about me. And everyone's going, about you, like you and your scandal. And she goes, yeah, come and see a man who's told me all of that, and yet offered me living water, yeah, offered me hope, yeah, offered me life. And if you read on to verse 39, it says, many of the Samaritans from that time believed in him because of the woman's testimony. Like, this woman became the first missionary. Like, this is nuts. And yet, Jesus' encounters with his people is so real that it actually invokes such a huge change of it. Like, this woman's life has changed completely in an instant. Not only did he fix the brokenness, did he fulfill all those things that she's been longing for, did he satisfy her with that living water, but he changed her. He changed her life's legacy. Once it was the shame, the unspoken, the elephant in the corner, the scandal that's hidden, and now her legacy is the first evangelist, the first person who publicly declares that Jesus is the Son of God, and that's incredible. Not only can we look back at that story and think, wow, like that woman, that's amazing, but what we need to remember is Jesus is still in the business of doing that. And at a time where it just feels like really strange that, maybe we can't have those same encounters with the people in our lives, Jesus is the same. And he can walk into people's lives just like he walked into the life of that woman. He knows where they're at. He knows what they're struggling with. He knows what this lockdown has brought about. He knows the isolation that people are feeling. He knows that maybe there's a desire to be hidden, there's a desire to be unseen, and yet he is the God who sees. That's the good news. And he is the God who sees and yet still wants to encounter with this broken people that we find ourselves to be. We are broken, we are in need, that's all we are. And yet he is the living water that satisfies us and meets our needs, meets us where we're at. And I just think it's absolutely incredible. And I encourage you to really, really make the most of your encounters with Jesus. Make the most of your quiet times. Make the most of those times where you and Jesus can sit and have those really honest conversations. And actually encourage you to then pray that he can have that. He can break through to those people that don't know him yet. So many people would have written this woman off as the last person to be saved, the last person to receive living water, the last person to know the Messiah coming. The Messiah's going to come to all the important people. No, the Messiah came to her. So maybe there's people in your life that you've written off, and maybe you need to ask for forgiveness for that and actually pray that Jesus shows you that he is still in the business of encountering people in their need, in their brokenness, and he can still change lives. So I really hope you're encouraged by this. I really, really encourage you to read the rest of John 4 and encourage you in praying for encounters with Jesus to be happening, not only with you, but the people around you and the people that you love and care for.